Salve, leitor! Meu nome é Klaus, Computerklaus, e eu tenho hoje a satisfação de entrevistar aqui um cara conhecido como Pai Mei do Search, ele, Bruce Clay, que está vindo abrir uma empresa, uma filial no Brasil, e a gente vai fazer uma primeira tomada de perguntas agora relacionadas ao tema jornalismo e Search. Hi, Bruce. How do you do?
Hello, how are you?
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Bruce, this first part of our interview is going to be related to the news industry and search and SEO. And my first question is, have you ever ran a training session for newspapers, for a news organization?
Actually, I have. I've run a bunch for Condé Nast publications. I also ran several sessions for training people at CNN. So I've done both of those. Publications have a tendency to fall sometimes into specialty areas. We've also done training for like Edmunds in the car industry, and we've trained copywriters. The biggest issue we have with copywriting in general is that the copywriter often forgets that they're writing for search engines and people, and they become eloquent. They put in extra words. Or perhaps they use the word that, it, them, instead of things that would have been keywords. So we just recommend to them the proper best practices, ways to actually write copy that gets ranked and gets traffic from search.
And in your conversations with the people from the C-suite of publications, what are they missing when the subject is SEO?
Well, first of all, everybody at the top, when I say everybody, many, at the top of a corporation believe that they need SEO. They just don't know what it is. And they assume it's like pay-per-click. You just pay for it and I have SEO. They don't understand that you have to earn it. They assume that SEO is fast. They don't understand it sometimes can take many months. So they're missing the fact that it is a process and a methodology, and a lengthy one at that, and assume that yes, they need it, but they don't know what it is from the standpoint of resource requirements. We have had many clients call us up, even presidents and vice presidents, high-level executives, that tell us they need SEO. But one of the reasons they need SEO is because they heard their competition is doing it, so they thought they should too, whatever it is.
And when it comes to fix something in a news organization's website, what's the major black hole within it? It's the content or the architecture?
It's actually both. We find that many times the content is written in a sensational way. For instance, years ago, when the tsunami hit Asia, the article in the New York Times had a page title of Killer Wave. Nobody searches for Killer Wave. They search for tsunami, Asia wave, or anything but Killer Wave. So by picking the wrong page structure, HTML kind of title tag descriptions, you can miss entirely your target in the search results. The other hand, what a lot of people assume is because I've written the content is inherently good. And the right thing to do is put it everywhere and create essentially duplicate content distribution mechanisms where my content is on so many places that none of it ranks because it's been diluted. And content is controlled by algorithms. Authority sites get credit for your content. You won't even show up for the stuff you wrote yourself if an authority site, a higher authority site, has your same content. So, and of late, we have further problems with what's referred to as spun content, where one piece of content is written, put on the internet, and because it's good to have content, people spin it. They reword it and then publish it, then reword it a different way and publish it and keep putting derivatives of that first content on other sites. And that was one of the first things that the Google Panda release was fighting, is low quality spun content. So I think that a lot of people that are looking for content would be advised to create the best content you can, include keywords that matter to the content that people would actually search for, and make it one copy and put it where it matters the most.
You don't think that this New York Times, at first glance, poor choice of word, is not in fact a strategy in the long run, the same way they did to Hudson Bay Miracle, when Chicago Tribunes and LA Times both wrote titles such as Plane Crashes into the Hudson Bay, and New York Times comes up with Hudson Bay Miracle, which is today still a keyword which the Google Suggest Monitor completes to you when you start typing. So it's a strategy in the long run.
It may very well be.
The first time maybe applied to Killer Wave.
Correct. And if you think about what happens, people walk down the street and they see something that is sensational, and they will buy the newspaper because that's sensational. But they don't search sensational. And as you know, I think I just saw something that said 24 out of the 25 top publications have lost 50% of their traffic in the last 2 years. That sensationalism isn't what's working for them. And they're continually turning to the internet to be able to get the traffic and get the visibility and maintain the brand that they otherwise, I think, are slowly over time losing. Yes, you have a little bit less of a Pulitzer kind of a headline, less sensationalism, but if you get 4 or 5, 6 times the traffic, that's not a bad deal.
Absolutely. Now, regarding this duplicate content issue, in my point of view, Google is trying to address this in 2 ways. First, the famous LSE, or LES, a part of an algorithm which tries to identify scraper text and slightly modify text. And the second one are those syndication and original sources, well, canonicals.
Right.
Only for the news industry. Do you see them going anywhere? I haven't.
I haven't either. Now, any kind of micro format, like the kind of thing that an author tag is supposed to do, I have not seen it be a result. But historically, Google will announce something, but there's nobody using it. So they wait until there's enough use, and then they actually fold it into something that matters. Because otherwise, you're only going to see spammers. So some of the micro format stuff I don't expect is going to show up. And that's okay. That's totally fine. And so it'll just take some time for anything to show up like that.
Do you think it's a good idea for a news organization to have a search engine centralized strategy?
No.
Why not?
First of all, even though circulation is dropping, I think that we cannot put all our eggs on the internet. We're not going to be able to reach a target market. There's plenty of markets out there that respond favorably to newspapers.
Yeah.
I think we just need to have the publication balance its cost and its value statement for the market and be able to serve the market. There's still a reason for print. I personally find that I read newspapers occasionally, but the internet serves my needs. But that doesn't mean I should center my entire business on the news end of it on the internet. Now, I'll go a little bit sideways here. Google, over the years, has responded strongly to the need to localize search results. But Google, with Google Plus, has access to instantaneous news. What if Google, in a year from now or 2 years from now, decided it was in the news business? What would that do to the news industry? Google's never going to print. The news industry cannot really compete with Google. When I log into my system, Google Plus is going to be right there. I get to see messages from my friends. I get my news feed straight from Google, and it's instant. You know, an earthquake hits, I've got 20 messages about the earthquake. I don't have to worry about it's going to show up in the 5 o'clock newspaper on the stand. I don't have to worry about the television is going to broadcast it or maybe do a byline across the bottom of the screen. I don't have to worry about the newspaper site having to have somebody assigned and go and write it. I can just open up and Google's going to be doing live, almost what they used to do with Twitter, with Google Plus posts. I think that we're going to have to adjust to the fact that news becomes somewhat more instantaneous, and that what news services are going to do ultimately are going to provide the depth of editorial analysis. You see, that's something that those feeds can't do. They're spontaneous, they're fast, but they're not going to give us what does this really mean. And I think that that part is always going to be there. I think blogs are sort of in the middle. I think that yes, a lot of bloggers can respond and give some analysis, but I think that newspapers are really the trusted resource for a lot of that, and that part's going to stay there forever. I just hope that newspapers don't go entirely online.